Hi, I'm Anita Grenier, and today what we're going to make is some homemade French bread. Not a really hard recipe, just time consuming because you have to allow for the rising time. But really everything can be done in one mixing bowl. Okay, so we're going to start off with proofing our yeast. And how we do that is we take a cup and a half of warm water. You don't want it scalding hot, you just want it when you put your fingers in the water, it's too warm to keep your fingers there. Okay, now we're going to add 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, instant yeast, or 1 package. I buy the bulk, and because I make a lot of bread, so that's why I use it like that. So we're going to mix this up, mix this yeast up. We're going to put a tablespoon of sugar in the yeast. That kind of gets things moving. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And we're going to mix that up. And we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes until it starts proofing. Okay, so it's been about 5-6 minutes. You can look at this and see how it's been rising a little bit. It's gotten kind of thick and bubbly. That's what we want. Okay, so we're going to take that yeast and we're going to pour it into our mixing bowl. Okay, and then we're going to use our hook, and on a very low speed we're going to go ahead and add our flour. Now we have 4 cups of either bread flour or all-purpose flour. I'm using bread flour today. And this is the trick, 1 cup of cake flour. And I use the just regular Swan's down cake flour. You use 1 cup of that in with your bread flour. And what that does, it makes it lighter, more like a cake dough, because French bread is not a dense bread. So I'm going to turn this on low, and I'm going to start adding my flour a little bit at a time so it doesn't pop up on you. Okay. And we also need 2 teaspoons of salt, which I forgot to put in my flour, but I'll go ahead and add that in a second. Okay, I've added my bread flour. Now I'm going to add my cake flour. And this machine is going to knead your bread. If you were doing this without the bread hook, you probably would mix everything up on the counter with some flour on it, and you would knead it for a good 10-15 minutes until you got to this stage. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the speed a little bit since all of my flour is in. And I did add my 2 teaspoons of salt to this. Now it's starting to make a ball. Once it makes a ball, then what you want to do is to let the hook go ahead and knead it, and let the hook knead the bread for a good 5 minutes. Okay, so you can see after about 5 minutes, it starts to make this nice conformed ball. It starts kind of coming up out of the bowl. That's how you know it's ready. So we're going to take it out of here, and you should have a good ball of bread. And this feels really soft. This feels really good. If it's too tough or it feels hard, put it back in there and let it go a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to move this over to my floured surface, and this is where we're just going to knead it gently because we've already kneaded it with the hook, so you really don't need to do this. However, I just kind of like to get it smooth all the way around, so I'm just going to pick it up, move it with the palm of my hands, and move out. And that's how you knead. Just pick it up and move it out. All right, so after you do that, you can see how it's really kind of smooth. That's kind of what you're looking for. All right, so you got a nice little ball here. You're going to take a bowl, nice good sized bread bowl. I usually put a little bit of oil in there. Rub this bowl. Then you're going to place your bread in the bowl, kind of turn around a little bit, so flip it over so you can get some more oil. You can put a little bit more oil on the top, like this. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cover it with a cloth towel, and we're going to place it in a nice place, free from any drafts, and we're going to let this rise. And it'll take about an hour and a half, and it should double in size. Okay, so we'll come back then. Okay, so here's what our bread looks like after it rises. It's definitely doubled in size. You can tell that by pushing a little hole in there and letting it sink. You can tell it's got a really good rise to it. All right, so we're going to take it out of this bowl and put it on our floured surface. And we're going to just knead it a little bit. Just flatten it out a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to take this and we're going to make 2 loaves. So we're going to cut this in half, like this. And then we're going to knead it a little bit, and what you're going to do here is you're going to be squeezing it and rolling it. Okay, squeezing it and rolling it, because we want to make French bread, so we want to make it the shape of a bread. Okay, so just squeeze and roll. All right. You can stretch it a little bit, just like you do with pizza dough, how you stretch it. Okay, now this is the pan that I use. This is it's got holes in it, so it kind of allows the steam to go through, and you get a crispier bread with this. And the shape of it, you can take your dough and place it in here, and it will rise up and make a loaf of bread. All right? You don't have to use a pan like this. You can put 2 loaves on a baking sheet, just separate them from each other, and it'll be the same difference. Okay, after letting it rise, this is what we get. Some puffed up bread. Nice, a big one and a little one. So we're going to take an egg, and we're going to add just a tad bit of salt to that. Just a little pinch. All right, we're going to stir that up. Whip it up. All right, then you're going to take a pastry brush, and we're going to gently coat the top of each bread. Gently meaning you don't want to smash your bread down, okay? Now I'm going to bake this in my convection oven at about 370 degrees for about 20-25 minutes. If you're doing a regular oven, traditional oven, it'll be 400, and you'll bake it for about 30 minutes until you'll see it gets golden. And one way to test if your bread is done is you can thump the top of it, and if it sounds a little hollow, then it's probably ready. But anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes should do it. Okay, after we put this on each loaf, I'm going to take a little bit of cornmeal and just sprinkle it on top. And this just gives it a little crunchy golden top. It just makes it look really good. Okay, So as soon as my oven is preheated, I'm going to put this in there, and I will check back with you as soon as it's done. Thank you. Okay, so here's what it looks like when it comes out the oven. It's got that little thump. Can you hear it? Kind of a hollow thump. And you can just slide these out, let them cool a little bit on a rack maybe, and then slice it up, and there you go, your homemade French bread.